bomb.
Welcome everyone to the Pyramid. The Pyramid is a result of probably 20 to 30 man hours in game and probably millions of tabs. Probably isn't the right word, it's definitely millions of tabs. And we decided to go with a pyramid style base because honestly we were bored of towers, we were bored of skyscrapers. We really wanted to go with something different. Unfortunately with Arma and Exile, you're kind of limited in your base building to squares. And so we had to get a little creative, as you can see right here. The reason why we have those corners is because otherwise you'd have holes in the side of your pyramid, and we didn't want that. But it kind of gives it a cool aesthetic. It's almost like it has fins. So the pyramid is it sits around 300 parts. It fluctuates between 297 and 298 depending on what we do to it at any given time. Primarily it serves as a defensive and offensive position in the north. It doesn't really have storage capabilities because of the limited parts that we are able to work with. That said, it's still pretty cool. It has two front gates, which are the only way in and out unless you blow a hole through a wall. If you plan on blowing a hole through the wall, I'll have you know that everything is concrete in this base. There's not a single wood part. And even if you blow through this outer layer of wall, that layer of wall will come down and prevent you from moving into the base further. So let's check out what the inside looks like. Just lock her up real quick. So in the interior we have an antechamber. And because of the limited parts, I decided what I wanted to do is I wanted to take an even number of blocks wide and bring it down to a single block in the middle. So we have an odd number of squares where we have an even. This allows us to save parts internally, as well as provides plenty of space in here to work with. So let's first go check out what it looks like on the inside. So the inside looks a lot more like a pyramid would from the inside if it was hollow, a hollow pyramid, than it does on the outside. Almost all of the lines match up. You can see it goes all the way around almost perfectly. And you might say, oh, that's because you used the snapping. Well, yes, but we could only use the snapping on one side at a time. We can't snap these two together. It just doesn't work in the Exile builder. So what we had to do is we had to free build from the up top and then snap down and hope to God we were on point. So as you can tell, it's a little sparse on the interior. And that's honestly because it takes quite a bit to build a pyramid 25 meters high exactly on Exile. We have one safe down here for basic base needs, food, water, medical supplies, as well as base defense, including mines, grenades, and Mark 200s, which I believe are some of the best base defense weapons in the game. So to go up top, you have to go through several doors. You might recognize this part of the base as kind of your typical giraffe or tower style base found on Exile these days. And as you can tell, cutting it down to a single line here, or a one digit, or not a one digit, an odd number of walls allowed us to make a one wide ramp instead of a two wide ramp, which halved our parts. Like I said, this base is a little part hungry. Eventually, if we can save the parts, we might add an additional door here. It's unnecessary to put it's unnecessary, in my opinion, to put floors covering this as you would with a traditional base, because you protect it from the outside by the side of the base, and you're also not able to see over into what's in the rest of the base. So if somebody decides to cut through this door first, which after this video they might not do, if they cut through that door first, it doesn't really tell them anything about the base. And if it was locked up here, they'd have to cut through another door to even see the interior of the base. Now, once up here, it's less secured, but that's partly base part related, but also because it's just unnecessary. There's nothing to protect. So now we move up into the top, and I want to point out some tricky part of engineering here. This is actually 2 staircases in one. You can see the seam a little bit there. That was placed there specifically to allow somebody to move from a floor that's more than 1 floor down to the upper floor. Once up top, you have the basic tower structure with 4 sides, 4 views, with the H barrier and gate configuration. This allows you to bipod up, shoot at a fairly wide degree field of vision. The other aspect that we might introduce are floor ports to defend the bottom of the base. But honestly, if somebody wants to attack the bottom of the base, they're more than welcome. We can defend it from the inside. This safe contains almost entirely medical supplies, food, water, and self-defense weapons. Mainly, if somebody is up here having to defend the base for long periods of time, we don't want them to starve to death or dehydrate to death, and we want them to be able to revive teammates or heal teammates if they're injured. Now let's head back down and take a closer look at some things. So to give you an idea of just how difficult it was to lay all this out so that things lined up, as you can see, this bottom wall here isn't perfectly lined up, and that's actually because we haven't relaid that outside wall since we redid everything in concrete. We built a wooden shell. This all used to be wood, and then we covered it in concrete. We didn't start just with concrete. The problem with that was that because when we moved to concrete, we did a little bit of a better job at the top to get everything to line up so perfectly in the corners. Like that almost looks like a Grand Mason symbol right there, doesn't it? Illuminati confirmed. So we actually have to lay every one of these walls, and these aren't actually walls, these are floors. We have to lay every single one of these by hand in free mode, because the corners, if we want to get this nice triangle shape in the corners, you have to have 2 extra walls here instead of just copping out with 1 wall flat on the sides. And so what that causes a problem, because we use floors to do it, and floors at angles people can walk on. So yes, technically people can walk all the way around the base. That seems like a security problem, but it's also like a pro security thing. Because we can also walk along the walls wherever we feel like it. Additionally, the reason why we put up this base layer of wall is not to protect the flag or protect the inside of the base or anything. We actually put it there purely to defend against people just jumping on the base from the ground in the middle of a raid. And so with that wall there, if it's perfect at the corners, which currently it's not, and we will fix that probably before the end of tonight. I hear some shooting in the background. If you perfectly line up the walls in free mode, you can actually block the corners in such a way that nobody can actually jump up on the corners to walk on them as they would walk on a floor. And with that, besides just telling you some tricks how to save parts and things that we're using, and instead of using two walls, you can use 1 floor. You just have to get pretty good at lining it up. This right here is the work of 21 Savage. I can't do anything near that perfect. He's pretty damn good, and it saves you a part per wall. So if you have a 2-story internal structure or external structure, I highly recommend using floors instead of walls. And I mean, that's all part of this competition, and I think that came out when we were building this base, is that we learned a lot of the neat tricks with building bases, whether it be how to free mode properly, how to save parts absolutely everywhere. Yeah, we really tried to embrace the competition spirit of figuring out the kind of the neat little things in Exile that allow you to cut corners. And I'll just leave you with, feel bad for construction workers, because when we came back through here and we redid all of this. We found so much shoddy craftsmanship from our first attempt that we practically had to rebuild this entire pyramid. And that just goes to show, do it right the first time, and when you come back to do a renovation, you won't have to punch yourself in the face a couple times, realizing all the mistakes you did. And honestly, that's about it. If you do want to try to make your own pyramid, I recommend finding a very flat area. I tried to find the most available flat area. Unfortunately, it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and also it's not exactly flat. You can see there's a little bit of a slope here, but there are very few completely flat areas on the map. This area was decent, but there's also some areas up in the middle north as well as northeast that I highly recommend testing out if you want to build your own pyramid. On this server, on EXP Gaming, it's kind of impossible to build a pyramid without doing the 45-degree angle. If you try to go at a shallower angle, you'll just run out of parts trying to build the max height pyramid. Well, folks, that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of little tour. Like I said, it's a little sparse on the inside. I'm not going to reveal exactly how I protect my flag here. Let's just say you're not getting in anytime soon. And if you do, I'll just pay the protection. It's no big deal. The only thing that I'd recommend going forward is be careful about base glitchers. I recommend using red doors, not gates. And that's about it. I think that if you have any questions on how we did this, and if you have any ideas of how we could improve it, please let us know. We are going to try to save some more parts here. We have a few more walls to get rid of and replace with floors. But other than that, we are maxed out on parts, and so this thing ain't going anywhere. All right. Thank you, guys. See you out there.